I'm hanging up.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica Podcast, episode 261. Tonight, on tonight's podcast, first, let's start with our guests, not guests, or our hosts. Myself, my name is Alfredo, and here to my right, Cristiano Oliveira. Cristiano, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And all the way from Toronto, Steve Santos, the chalkboard himself. What's up, Steve?
Just writing some stuff down on my chalkboard that's imaginary over here on the side. Getting told to shut up in Portuguese on the WhatsApp by my friend Cristiano.
Who, Ronaldo?
Cala tu, pá.
Anyway, on tonight's podcast, we'll look back at Benfica's Portuguese Cup game against Setubal this past weekend. We'll also look ahead to tomorrow's game, CSKA in Moscow, frigid Moscow, and we'll look ahead to Setubal again, this time for the Liga, again this coming Sunday at Estádio da Luz. So, Cristiano, how have you been, man? I haven't seen you in a week.
It's not my fault.
Everything
you know
is
where
good.
I'm at. 2 weeks you haven't seen me.
If I don't play FIFA, I never get to talk
weeks,
to you.
2 weeks you haven't seen me.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
That's right.
2 weeks.
Absolutely right.
There's no Red Bulls games for you guys to go to?
Red Bulls are done.
Why?
Yeah, because some
playoffs now.
some crap team up north or something like that. I wasn't around.
Eliminated them.
I wasn't around. Maybe they needed me for motivational experience, but whatever. That's
Anyway.
besides the point.
What crap team?
Let's Steve don't even know that the Toronto exists. He doesn't follow them.
He lives like 2 blocks away from them, but he has no idea.
Anyway, let's get into the Setubal game. Benfica played the Portuguese Cup, as I mentioned, against Setubal. I'll give you the lineup. Varela, Douglas, Luizão, Jardel, and Grimaldo were in the back. Samaris behind Pizzi and Krovinovic, and Rafa, Cervi on the wings, and Jonas up front. I'll give you a little background on the changes. So apparently Svilar came down with the cold, was not available to play. Julius Cesar continues to be hurt or to suffer from his back. And so Varela stepped up, and I believe Paulo Lopes was on the bench. In regards to Douglas, I think it was a pure decision to start Douglas instead of André Almeida. As a matter of fact, André Almeida was on the bench, and he did get some minutes later on. But because it was a cup game, Douglas got the start. In the middle, both Feza and Filipe Augusto seemed to be hurt or were hurt for this game. So Samaris got the start, and then Pizzi and Krovinovic. On the wings, Rafa getting another shot. As Rui Vitoria mentioned, o cavalo passa à porta de todos, meaning the horse goes by everyone's door, except João Carvalho and Zivkovic. O João Carvalho vive numa rua que é bocado difícil de chegar lá, então o cavalo não vai lá.
He lives at the top of the hill.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Então, mas é cavalo ou burro que chega lá?
He's got the carriage already full, so he has a tough time going up.
Cedo de abóboras.
And it's those cobblestone streets, so it's slippery.
Yeah.
Então,
It started to rain a lot now in the fall. The cobblestone's really slippery. The
They're
horse
slippery.
can't make it.
Mhm.
então, se calhar o cavalo não tem ferradura, não chega lá.
Needs spikes.
Anyway, let's get into this game. Steve, nothing new here with Feza and Filipe Augusto being hurt. Samaris natural substitute. Douglas getting another chance. Rafa, as I mentioned, getting another chance. So apparently he's done enough in practice to deserve another chance. And I think that we've already mentioned this, that there's a lot of guys that are working hard in practice, and as a result, they're getting looks, which is good. So seems to pose the question, Steve, is Zivkovic working hard enough to get a shot?
There's something going on there. I mean, like the talent's there. We all know he's a special player. I remember when we first signed him, Chris was going crazy because the kid's special. There's just no two ways about it. But there's something outside of what he can do within the 4 lines, or what he can do with his feet, that is keeping him from this lineup, whether it is what he does on the training pitch, whether it's something even aside from that, we don't know. But in terms of raw ability, I mean, there's not too many players that can match his talent and technique. So
yeah,
there's something more there.
And from what I can recall, is last year Red Star he had issues, and at the time I think it was explained that he refused to sign a contract extension, and as a result, he was set aside from the main team. I don't know if you recall that, Christian.
I do, but I mean, if that was the case, I mean, that's a reasonable excuse for me. I don't think that brings into question his professionalism. I mean, you've seen that with other players around the world where they don't want to resign or extend their contract, and therefore they get punished by the club. I mean, it happens all the time around the world.
Yeah. For you, what is
I
your?
guess Steve doesn't agree with it.
No,
I mean, there's. Go ahead, Steve.
it looks bad on you what he was doing. He didn't. He was looking for a sign-on bonus for himself. Really, is what happened.
We don't know that. All I'm saying is that you've seen players who have not signed extensions, Steve, whatever reasons they are, and the club decides to push it. It happened with Carrillo. That's how Benfica wound up getting Carrillo.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Now, I was just making the statement, the comment that I don't think it called, because like Alfredo said, and you mentioned whether he's working hard enough at practice or not. I don't think it has anything to do with that as far as his Red Star
What's your take?
move.
What's your take on Zivkovic's current situation?
Listen, we've heard different rumors regarding bonuses that Benfica will have to pay him for such appearances and this and that if he triggers a bunch of different bonuses. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping that it's really on the field, that he is not working hard enough, even though I'm a huge fan. But I'm hoping because if it's off the field, the Benfica is really starting to go down this path of excluding players and pushing players aside because they don't want to pay. I think that just those are little kid games that I hope that Benfica, as a huge Benfica fan, that I hope that Benfica is not doing.
I don't think that's the case because apparently Ruben Diaz also has a clause, and if he were to hit a particular number of games, he's due for an automatic raise in a bonus.
10,000 euros as opposed to the other guy, probably like $500,000. I mean, look, it's peanuts compared to the other guy. So
yeah, and I also didn't mention that Ruben Diaz was also out and Jardel played. Ruben Diaz he had underwent an appendectomy. How do you say that?
His appendix. He had an appendix.
He's got an appendix.
He had appendicitis, so he had to have appendix removed.
Yeah, that's right.
But Steve, you were saying right, because Steve wanted to chime in here. He was going to go on with the whole Zivkovic thing. Go ahead, Steve. Because I mean, I cut you off, but I just wanted to make it clear that this happens all the time.
No, it's a reality. Yeah,
it's a reality, but it shows for me if you're brought up at Red Star and they've given you the opportunity to be the player that you are, I think it shows a little bit of lack of respect. Personally, it might happen every day, but personally, it's something that if tomorrow Ruben Diaz did to us or something like that, I'd be offended and I would have a judge of character towards Ruben Diaz that would not be positive.
Ruben, you're right, but
that's
you have to take everything into account here. Okay, different country, different wage bill. Ruben Diaz, even if it's at 100,000 euros, which is good for the kid his age, right? It's not a professional, especially of a caliber player that he is, a guy that looks like he's going to be, whether at Benfica or for sure on the national team for the next 10 years. Guy of that caliber, $100,000 is nothing, right? But you put $100,000 per se in Serbia, wherever the hell Zivkovic came from. It's a lot. Steve, I mean, what if they're offering him peanuts?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. Let's say they wanted to. You're right. As a Benfica fan, you want your Ruben Diaz. You want those guys to show loyalty and show gratitude. But if Benfica's lowballing these guys, right, coming in with very low, and the guy decides to go after money, it happened with your boy Bernardo Silva. He chased the money. It happens.
Let's not get into Bernardo Silva. But here's the thing, right? So this is what Zivkovic's second year
at Benfica.
Yeah. So I would think, yeah, I do understand what Chris is saying, and that is a very valid point that he might have clauses that he will hit or that he will trigger once he hits a certain amount of games. But then again, last season he played quite a few games. So
towards the second half of the year,
if you were to hit those clauses, I mean, you would hit him. Something's going on there. Nobody could really explain. Nobody really knows what's going on, but there's something going on. And I think that when you hear Rui Vitoria with the message of the horse going by your door every once in a while, it's clearly a message to these guys that, look, your chance is going to come, But by the same token, you have to make yourself available for that chance to come. And if it means working hard or doing certain things in training in order to get that chance, then that's what you have to do. And maybe it's an internal message to Caval passaporte todos.
It is, but it's also a word of motivation for the kids or the João Carvalhos, even the Zikovic, Diogo Gonçalves now is finally getting playing time for a long period that he wasn't. So it's a way to keep these kids motivated and to keep the kids on the B team as well motivated. We see Keaton Parks, we'll get into it in a little bit. He made his debut. There's a bunch of other kids on the B team who are looking to make the jump. So you're right. It could be interpreted as a message to the locker room, but I think it's a message for the overall club, for anyone that's reaching, at that level, knocking on the door, that stay ready and do your thing, because you never know. Your chance could happen at any moment.
No, I think that I agree. I do agree with that. Steve, did you want to add something?
Just wanted, before we change topics, because I had a feeling we were wrong about it. Zivkovic is came from Partizan.
I'm sorry. Did I say?
Yeah, we said Red Star.
They're like the rivals.
Follow the leader.
I went with it, but I was like, Partizan's the one that has the really strong youth development in Serbia. So I had a feeling I was wrong. So I went to just double check it. No worries.
So where did he come from?
Before
Partizan?
we get correct, yeah, Partizan.
For some reason, I thought he came from Red Star. You did look it up?
I just did. 0-0.
All right. Yeah, we've been accused oftentimes of not having a guy that knows these things for us, a statistician for us. We're looking for a statistician, but he needs to be local and he needs to be here in studio looking up these numbers over there in the corner and then letting us know, feeding us this information. It's not going to work if you're somewhere. Don't you think? Are we taking applications?
We could actually do it though, because we'll open up a chat on Google Hangouts per se, and whoever's there just looking it up, and he could just message us. Oh, guys,
that's a good shout.
He's at Partizan. He does not necessarily Red Star.
Are you taking applications for that? Are we taking applications?
Email me, inbox
Cristiano if you want to be our fact checker.
Yeah, but the
fact checker. Fact checker.
One of the prerequisites for the job is you actually have to beat Cristiano in FIFA. So if you can do that, then you might be able to get.
Then
come on.
Inbox is going to.
I'll tell you right now what the prerequisites is. First of all, you got to have working knowledge of Firefox. you need to be very quick on the internet, know where to go get the information. So anything you could correct this at within 1 minute.
But
time.
you're really missing the key ingredient here. In order to have a successful statistician, is you need someone unlike Steve to have reliable internet. That's
a plus.
That's a must. Without that, they can't send me a message.
You're gonna need to show us your internet speed, a screenshot of your internet speed to make sure that you have enough internet power to do this research and
that's the
this
number
job
one
for
right
us.
there. That's number one requirement.
We are accepting applications. Inbox Cristiano. And we would love to have somebody just fact-checking things. And I know that I have plenty of things that I
don't inbox me. Inbox Benfica Podcast.
Benfica Podcast, yeah. DMs.
DMs. Go DM.
And no, because then, just do it. Anyway, let's turn our attention to the game now. And Steve, these games, after coming back from a week off, your rhythm is kind of screwed up. There's always... I'm a little apprehensive as far as the performance of the team and how the team is going to come out for these games. But actually, Benfica didn't do too bad in that first half. There was the first initial, I would say, 25, 30 minutes that Benfica pressed, that Benfica went at it. There was a couple shots that were blocked. There was a couple plays down the wing that created chances. And we did end up scoring a goal on the 25th minute on a set play from a corner, a design play, if you will. But how did you see this team? I know that we had talked about the progression into the 4-3-3 and how we want to see how this team progresses in that setup. What was your opinion of the team in general in this game?
Well, the good part was the majority of the starting 11, I think, were with Rui Vitoria over the international break. Just scanning through it quickly, I think at least 6 or 7 of the guys were there with him.
Yeah, I would say all of them.
You would say all of them? I think Samaris played.
Samaris.
I think Samaris played for Greece, but aside, and I don't know if Grimaldo got called to the the younger Spanish squad or not. But regardless, there was some moments that looked a little bit better. Obviously, when Krovinovic is on the ball, we look a little bit better. He makes things click. You got two guys that got opportunities on the flanks from Cervi and Rafa, and okay, Cervi has the goal, and I guess you would call it an assist for the Krovinovic goal, but I didn't find him too impressive. I felt like he was really limiting himself to a lot of first-time crosses, a lot of rushed and hurried things. I didn't feel like he was calm, composed, that he was really finishing off his possessions and his plays properly. I just didn't like what I saw from him. Same from Rafa. But overall, it was a performance that was good enough. I don't say it was good or like we played really well. We had some moments where we looked half decent, but it was just enough. You know what I mean? It wasn't a gung ho performance. I mean, the Vitoria de Guimarães performance away from home was a better performance than this Setubal match that we just saw at Toulouse, for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, you also got to understand that you got Douglas and you got Samaris. To me, Samaris at this point, if Benfica let him go, and I know that I'm not the type of guy. What have you done for me lately? But I'm not sure that Samaris could ever return back to the level that we saw him with JJ. And I don't know if it has to do with coaching. I don't know if it has to do with what's being asked of him. I don't know if it's a mental thing that needs to click. But I mean, Samaris in this triangle, oftentimes we saw him in positions where Pizzi and Krovinovic needed to be. He was taking up those spaces. He needs to be a guy that has to be lower, come in between the two center backs, and let the other guys work in between lines. And oftentimes he was a step above those guys. Those guys were the ones that were coming back to get the ball, and Samaris was in those spaces. I'm sorry, it sucks because I know that he's given us a lot. He's committed to the club. I believe that he's a Benfiquista, but I think at this point, I don't know how I feel about Samaris' future at Benfica.
He hasn't been anywhere near the level he was 2 years ago. But guys, I mean, not guys, Alfredo. Let's cut the guy a little slack here. All right. He's constantly being shifted out of position, whether he's playing an 8, whether he's playing a 6. So it takes a little bit of adaptation to get into that rhythm. And especially with two new guys with, implementing a 4-3-3, it's not a system that Benfica is accustomed to playing. So I'm pretty sure that's new to him. But at the same time, my thing with Samaris is I haven't been pleased, but what other options do you have at this point? That's why, to me, I want to hold on to him. I mean, I'd be okay with letting him go with a suitable replacement. But right now, there's no one on this roster who's that suitable guy. Maybe there's a kid that'll shock the world and come up and maybe do as good as he does. But right now, off the top of our heads, we can't mention one. We've seen a Felipe Augusto. He's fallen short. When Feja is injured, Benfica does not have anyone on this roster that could do the things he does. So therefore, everyone that gets put into his place is going to look out of whack.
No, I agree. I completely agree.
One thing I'll have to say is he's never played enough there, but I've never been truly disappointed in Andre Almeida's performances at that position. It's always been like little cameos here and there, but I guess we don't have a right back to really make that an option. But I wonder, I just think that he could probably play a better part there than what we.
Well, because he's more suited.
It's his original position.
It's more natural to him.
It's his original position. He's less likely to go in for a ball that he really shouldn't and get burnt. He's less likely to, although, okay, he had that one mishap in Basel, but he's less likely to make those harsh decisions, those rash decisions that Samaris makes. So for me, it's something that I'd like to see more of, but because we don't have a right back, we'd probably not see it. And
look, he might be.
Technically, he's quite limited, but we have a lot of Face is not a fantastic technical player, and he gets the job done in matches where we're on the front foot for the most part, and all he's doing is spreading the ball around. So
He doesn't have to do much. Fejsa is. I'm tired of people always not giving Fejsa the credit.
It's all positional.
The guy is.
He's
the
fantastic.
Guy exactly.
He's fantastic. But when we're on the front foot and we're the ones when we're playing Vitoria de Setubal, let's say, the times that he's gonna have to put out a fire are 3-4 times in a match, or even be properly positioned 3-4 times in a match. We need more from him when he's on the ball, and he's only just adequate. So, in that stance, Almeida should be able to do the same thing. You know what I mean? I'm not defensively. There's honestly, there's no better defensive midfielder, strictly defensive, in Portugal. Maybe he could probably play on a lot of teams if it was just strictly based on the way he knows how to position himself to defend.
Yeah.
And look, Almeida might be more responsible defensively per se
than Samaris
is, but I'm not sure he's better with the ball at his feet than somebody is. I mean, we've seen him struggle with the ball at his feet. So if you're talking about going from a guy who's limited going forward to switch to another guy who's limited going, I mean, it's
but it all depends on what's required of that guy in that position.
Look,
I mean, if it's just the guy to close up holes, and you get the ball moving, you get it to the next guy.
But let's think about this for 1 second. We've changed coaching staffs. We've been looking for a backup or another guy that could play alongside, or a backup, a guy that could replace Fejsa and give him his breather for 3 years now. And Almeida's been on this club ever since then, and obviously difficult. Nobody thinks that he could do that position, only in an emergency situation. So there's got to be something that's lacking.
Yeah, no, I get it. I maybe because look, Almeida is very tough because he's the guy that he's not going to let you down, and he's not going to be. It's not a world beater. It's just that
when
guy.
You look at Andre Almeida, what's the one strength? The one thing that pops into your mind when describing him is the fact that he's a polyvalent
and consistent.
The guy.
But consistent on a flat line. He doesn't have peaks and he doesn't have valleys.
He's anywhere between a 5 and a 7, and he's not going to go anywhere higher than a 7. He's not going to go anywhere lower than a 5. He's a guy that you can trust to play a left back, cover you a left back, cover you a right back, and in some situations, like Steve mentioned, cover you as CDM. Doesn't mean he's great at any one of those positions, but right now on a team that's severely lacking a backup to a CDM and a right back.
Dude, don't say CDM. Don't say that. But freaking FIFA guys say CDM. You can't say
defensive mid.
You can't say defensive midfielder.
I'm just trying to it. Okay, school. I'll pivot.
Poor guy.
CDM.
It is. He's a CDM.
That's FIFA talk, man.
Toma lá.
You know more about soccer than that, man. Come on.
I'm just trying to move it along.
Move it along. Next topic.
So anyway, Steve, here's another question that I wanted for you, and I think that because we've had Pizzi now for a couple of years playing in that 8 position, and now we have Krovinovic, which is a guy that is looking to become a target for that outlet ball out of the back. Do you think that there's still a little bit of a tendency for the defenders to look for Pizzi first, or do you think they're already looking for the other target?
I think just basically who has the ball, where's Krovinovic positioned, where's Pizzi positioned. I don't really think there's a preference or who they're looking for. I would like to believe that, okay, they're Luizão and Ruben Dias aren't the greatest ball players on earth, but they should be able to see who their reference points are, where the opposing team is placed and where their players are placed, and choose the right pass. I haven't seen them try to favor one over the other, especially since one's playing more to the right and one's playing more to the left. No, I don't see it. What I do like about it is that there is variety, especially with Pizzi being a little bit off color, having Krovinovic able to pick up the ball off the defenders, because it seems whoever is playing at the 6 is not able to connect play forward from that position, whether it's Fejsa or Samaris. It's good to have the variety of 2 different interiors who could do it. That's probably one of the things about this system that I like the most is that if either Pizzi or Krovinovic is there in the first phase of construction, if they're able to break the line of that first press, the other one is within the block to progress play from there. The goal that Krovinovic scores, he actually does all of it. If you watch it, there's a nice video on Lateral Esquerdo where it shows he picks it up from construction zone, breaks lines, shows up in the creation zone, breaks lines, and then the forward ball goes out to the left winger Cervi, and he's got two shots at it, and Krovinovic is there to finish it as well. So he literally did everything in that play. So it's great to have that variety, to have someone else who could do that, because before it was just Pizzi.
Yeah, Cristiano, let's talk about Keaton Parks getting his debut. He got called up to the game roster, to be honest with you. I thought he was just going to be a guy to make some numbers. But obviously with Faces and Felipe Augusto's injury, was obviously a guy that was going to be an option. He's been looked at. He's been watched on his performances for the B team. He works hard. So obviously is a guy that passou o cavalo.
Yeah, he looked very comfortable when he came in. I was a little bit surprised. He looked like he'd been there before, and that's, to me, the thing that I was most impressed with, because a lot of times you see these kids that are coming in and making their debut, and we're talking about a kid that's been in Portugal for a year and a half, if even a year and a half now, right? It's about a year, because he got there.
Season of Varzim.
Okay, so a year and a half. And he came in to Estádio da Luz, making his debut, looked very comfortable on the ball, did not look out of place, wanted to touch the ball around. He looked like a player to me, man. I mean, he looked like he could be a valuable asset going forward. Now, whether he's going to get many opportunities due to the fact he's directly competing with the likes of PZs and the Krovinoviches of the world, that's another question. Exactly, but that's another question for another day. But did he look like the kid could play? Did he look like he could be a valuable addition to this club? Absolutely. I think this, sky's the limit.
Look, for me, 19 minutes is not nearly enough for us to gauge what kind of player he is, right? To me, the thing that impressed me, and I agree with you, confident.
Yeah, he didn't look like he was
didn't look like he was nervous. I mean, this is probably the most people he's ever played in front, making a debut for the senior team, and he looked comfortable on the ball, as you mentioned. He didn't look rattled, didn't look nervous. You look at his face, calm look on his face. He was part of the second goal that Krovinovic scored. And look, when you look at somebody like that, you got to feel encouraged by what you have. I mean, by the same token, on the other side of the coin, you got a kid like Pedro Pereira. And look, I'm not shitting on Pedro Pereira, but there's guys that feel the shirt a little bit more.
Freaking Rafa.
And maybe that's the reason. The reason why is because all their life, that's what they lived with. This is their dream. And for Parks, maybe, yes, he is now embedded in the club. He knows what the club means. He knows what the club means to the fans. He knows that this is the biggest club in Portugal. But he doesn't have that history that Pedro Pereira might have, that Rafa might have. And so it allows him to be more comfortable.
Maybe his lack of knowledge or his ignorance, right, to a certain extent, of the Benfica Mística helps him out in this case, because he stepped onto the field. Like I said, he looked like he belonged. Pedro Pereira, Rafa, these guys, he looked like, deer in the headlights. He looked very comfortable on the ball, and I would not be surprised to see him get a couple more opportunities here going forward.
Steve, anything you wanted to add to that?
The only interesting part is he's another one to the equation. I just read a little part from Rui Vitoria's presser after the game, and he was playing 6 in training the whole week. Just obviously Samaris was probably with Greece, and then when he came back, he chose him instead of Keaton Parks. But that's another option. Who knows if he turns out to be
he's a big boy.
Yeah, he is big.
He's a big boy, and if he turns out to be good enough, that could be a good option down the road to cover that hole that Faison very often leaves open.
And here's the thing, right? That, I mean, if you look at this lineup, right, this midfield or the 4-3-3, you look at Pizzi, small stature, Krovinovic, small stature, Rafa, small stature, Cervi, small stature. The only guy that has decent size is Samaris. And then when you put Keaton Parks in there, you definitely notice the change, because he's a big boy. So how much of this small stature in the midfield do you think it affects Benfica on dead ball situations where these guys have to defend?
I think in Portugal, they're okay with it. But when they go out and play in European competitions, that's where the size really matters. Because you notice these Benfica, they're tiny compared, like, especially tomorrow going up against the Russians. You'll see the difference in size in some of these players. It does affect them on set pieces, but I think you do still have the big boys. You have the Jardels, you have the Luizons, even Samaris to a certain extent, like you mentioned. They're still big enough that they could get in there into a cross, but defensively, that's where I think it might hurt them the most.
Absolutely. Even winning long balls in the midfield, it's tough for these little guys. I mean, they're fast as heck, but it's tough to win a head ball if Cervi and Rafa go up, and even Krovinovic go up. I don't see Krovinovic win many balls.
Pizzi looked a lot more comfortable, by the way, than he's looked in the past couple.
What do you think? It's because the pressure has been taken off of him that doesn't have to do as much.
Maybe that definitely has something to do with it. Maybe the fact that maybe he had a little knock that we weren't unaware of. You know, he kept missing national team games. He didn't look like he was 100%. Maybe he's getting back close to 100%. He's playing against a team that's really sitting back also. Let's not discount that. And Vitoria de Setubal that allowed them to have the ball. So he looks comfortable. We've always said he looks comfortable when he has the ball at his feet. All right, when he has space to play with. Now, when teams constantly pressure him and have someone on top of him, that's where Pizzi goes missing. It didn't happen this game, but he looked a little bit closer to the Pizzi we're accustomed to. Jonas was one of the worst games I've probably seen him in a Benfica uniform. Remember, he didn't really do much, you know, very little. Rafa, to me, man, look, I understand he puts in the work. I understand he's fast. I understand, you know, he's, you know, the highest transfer that Benfica have ever paid. All this crap in Portuguese, I should say. All this crap. But dude, I'm getting tired of seeing him, dude. He just lacks a lot. He leaves a lot to be desired in the final third, bro. He lacks the finishing move. He lacks that finishing touch.
Yeah. For me, Rafa, and we'll wrap up with this. For me, Rafa, he wasn't overly impressive, but he wasn't disappointing. Going back to some of the times where we've seen him in front of goal and he lacks on the decision, he was just okay.
To me, he was disappointing because you put in the work and you see him, he'd win the ball right on a one-on-one situation, and then when it's time to make the final touch, you don't either get it blocked, intercepted. He never made the final pass. He can never. That's his biggest problem. He can never make that. He gets in the perfect position to get a cross off somehow. The defender gets back in position. He's always leaving something there that he could have done more. He's always leaving that little window open, and that's the problem that I have with him. He misses that killer instinct, man. I don't think he has it.
Lacking in the final third in that final ball.
It's been the story of his career at Benfica so far. The player that was at Braga would be extremely useful to Benfica. The player that we have inherited for whatever reason it is, whether it's Rafa needs to feel like he's the man, and he was the man at Braga, and he needs to be able to have an off-color game, have a couple shitty games, but still get the next start and feel that confidence and feel that he's always going to be able to play. Maybe that's what he needs. I'm not saying he deserves it or should get it at Benfica. I'm just saying the player that was at that Braga would be very good for us especially down the left, cutting in and causing a lot of mismatches with the way he dribbles the ball at pace. He'd be very good for us, but he's never shown us that version of himself. And I just wonder if we've had a whole bunch of theories as to what it is, but there's something there that is extra football or extra technique.
He's a player.
It's past what he can actually do with the ball at his feet. It's something that's working in his brain that is not clicking. And I've said it before. This is one of those broken record parts, but he should have been somebody that could be the difference maker, but he's never been that for us. And I honestly think he's going to go out the back door this summer without ever being that.
I think he's a player that needs to be in a counterattacking system on a team that plays counterattack all day, where he's on a one-on-one situation. He doesn't really have to create and get other players involved. He just go forward. It's like, I'm telling you, like the burros with the blinders on. That's what it is. Just go forward. And I think he could be serviceable in that system.
But even on a counterattack, you still got to make a pass in the final third.
Not at a team like Braga. He's really the only guy going for it because everyone else is defending. So he's either going to lose it or put it on net.
I disagree. When he was at Braga, Braga against Benfica played counterattacking, but against everyone else in the league, they don't play counterattacking. No, I think it's past systems. I think it's past even what happens in the four lines every day. There's some mental block that's going on for him, aside from supposedly him not being the best trainer out there. There's something even more than that for me, anyway.
Yeah,
because there was a special player when he was at Braga, and he's far from special now.
All right. Well, Benfica is through to the round of 16th. I believe the draw will come up very quick here. Here's where our statistician would come in. This Friday, maybe?
I think it's Friday. Yeah, I was going to say. I think it's
this Friday comes up. So we'll find out who the next opponent out of the 15 teams that are left that we can play. We'll find out who our next opponent is. Coming up, we'll have CSKA in Russia tomorrow. With Benfica still looking for their first win of this year's Champions League campaign. To be perfectly honest, I'm good with Benfica going out quietly out of this competition. I don't believe that we'll make even the Europa League. Yes, mathematically, we're still in there. And if there's a lot of goals scored and not only by us, by other teams, we could still make that third spot. But I find it highly unlikely. It'll be nice to get a win tomorrow. For me, what I'm looking for is a win or even a good performance overall. I think something that's indicative of the progression that the 4-3-3 has made. For me, that's what I'd be looking. Of course, with the elements that the team will have to brave, we're not sure if we can expect a team at 100% not affected by the elements. So that's also something to take into effect. I don't know what temperature will be in Russia at game time. I haven't looked at the weather. Here's another one for our statistician. See, he could be very helpful. But anyway, I'm just looking not to be embarrassed in Russia. And this has been a little bit of a mixed bag in this year's Champions League with an embarrassing performance against Basel and some things that where we didn't look all that great. So I'm good with people not getting hurt, something that doesn't embarrass us, and just play according to the dimension of your club or the reputation of your club. Don't go out there and embarrass the institution that is Benfica. And that's all I got for that game. I don't know, Cristiano or Steve, if you guys wanted to add something to tomorrow's game. I think at this time is that's all she wrote for Benfica's hopes of making it to the next round of the Champions League and even to the Europa League.
What I read earlier was neither if CSKA or Basel make any points in the last two league games, Benfica doesn't stand a chance for the Europa League, and that at this point has to be fine by me. For me, I would keep Fesa and Grimaldo far, far away from the pitch tomorrow.
Is it artificial?
No, it is freaking freezing cold, and those two guys are made of glass. Put them aside and keep them wrapped up nice and warm, and make sure they don't pull any muscles or anything like that. And that's that. Aside from that,
yeah,
maybe we'll see Zivkovic finally play in a less than ideal situation. I mean, he's if he is actually training bad and he gets this game in the freezing cold up in Russia. It might be a little bit of a message taken. You know what I mean?
Yeah, could be. All right, let's. We then play Setubal this Sunday, 8:15 local at Stade de Luz. Setubal is still looking for their first away win. They're currently 15th in the Liga NOS. Away, as I mentioned, 0 wins, 4 losses, and 1 tie. Cristiano Cocedo after the game thought that the result was unfair. Thought that Setubal should have gotten out of Stade de Luz with at least a draw for what they did. How much of that speech and the players listening to that speech after the game do you think that serves as motivation for the players when they go to Stade de Luz this week?
I'll tell you this much. I hope that we don't have the same reoccurring thing that happened last year. If you guys remember, we played Vitoria de Setubal in a taça spanked them around pretty badly. Then we played them a couple days later in the Liga, and then after that, the team went. If you guys recall, we really struggled after that.
That's when that was the Boavista game. After that,
yeah, but it was after playing those two back-to-back with Guimarães. So I hope the same thing doesn't happen here now. As far as they go, they have a couple caliber players, bro. You look at Paciencia, the kid, Domingos kid, forget his first name, Gonzalo Paciencia. He looked like he's good on the ball. And they have the dude Arnold, number 7. That guy is just fast, and he's a robot, man. He was beating Grimaldo like a drum. And so, I mean, you know, these guys will be motivated. Anytime you get to play Benfica and you put out they weren't bad. It wasn't a terrible performance. So, you know, they're going to have to take confidence from Stade de Luz, the performances over the Stade de Luz over the weekend. And, you know, I go back to anytime you get to play Benfica, bro, you don't need any more motivation from the coach or fans. It's just you have an opportunity to play against the biggest team in Portugal. You know, everyone will be watching. So,
yeah, absolutely. So we'll just have to see. Steve, anything that concerns you about the Setúbal game and the way we played them?
To be honest, I wasn't too impressed with Setúbal. I thought last year's Setúbal was a better footballing team than this year's, which is, I guess, expected. Can't remember now. This Postaski kid's good. Like you say, Paciencia is good, but aside from that, I thought the team was quite poor. The player that you like, Chris, for me, is just an athlete. I don't think he's much of a footballer.
I didn't say he's a tremendous footballer.
He's fast. He's fast. Yeah. So he's fast.
Remember that goal he missed?
He's fast, and he poses
a couple years ago.
And he poses a threat. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, but he does. He poses a threat every time the ball goes down. Is he's going to be, and especially if we go, God forbid, you play Popsicle back there.
I think that's quite possible with Grimaldo. It could happen any day.
Yeah.
Here's my thing for you. Because I don't remember and I forgot to look it up, and I know we need a guy, because obviously none of us have time to look at 0-0. But I thought João Teixeira is still owned by us, so
he is. He's on.
So he's allowed to play versus us in the cup, but not in the league.
Cup is different rules.
The League Cup, the Taça.
Okay, that's where I was. That's where I was kind of going that way, and I thought that's what was going on, but I wasn't sure. So there you go. You guys we didn't need 0-0.
Well, I mean,
he scored both. He scored the 2 goals in the team's in the last round previous to playing Benfica. He scored the 2 game. Well, the 2 goals that they eventually won with whatever. And I'm surprised they decided to keep him on the bench and brought him on as a late substitute. He's one of their better players, a guy that could score and he could create for others. So I was surprised. Maybe there's some shenanigans going around in the back. I have no idea. But yeah, he could play in Taça and Liga, but he can't play. Well, Taça the Liga, but he can't play in the Campeonato.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got for today. I think that's enough. Steve, what is that? 40-something minutes?
We did good. That's like ideal podcast length, boys.
Yeah. Again, if you want to be our statistician, and I'm dead serious, we need somebody to just be in the background feeding us information and fact checking us through these podcasts. I mean, and we'll give you all the credit, and you probably participate every once in a while.
João Gomes is already.
João Gomes said, but he said when he's asleep. João Gomes' issue is that João Gomes is an encyclopedia, but he's plus 5 hours.
Yeah.
So
I just real quick wanted to throw out a huge congratulations to our boy CJ Dos Santos, who practiced with the first team last week, and today he got his call up to the B team, I should say, not U23, to the B team, and he played against West Ham U23s, which
that's right.
They beat 2-0, but he was on the bench. So this is a kid that looks like he has a bright future. Benfica is interested in every goalie, it seems, that's available around the world, but they have a bunch of youngsters with Svilar, him, and a couple other kids through the system, Duarte, I guess. But yeah, just keep up the good work, CJ, and we're proud of you here at Benfica Podcast.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, if you've heard Luis Felipe Vieira's, or if you watched Luis Felipe Vieira's interview, he states that Benfica's chances for an European title go through the players that he could promote from the Seychelles. So obviously, and he also spoke about planning, and when the planning is being done, we're looking at the kids that are ready at the Seychelles, that are ready to step up. So we don't. There's definitely from year to year, there's definitely less of an investment on foreign players by Benfica than years past, and that's because we're relying a lot on the Seychelles. I mean, we talk about defensive midfielders and center midfielders. Jetson, Florentino are two kids that people have a buzz about. Also know João Felix, which is if you get a chance to watch that kid, he is silk. We were very impressed with him, Cristiano, last time we saw the B team, even though they got spanked for nothing. But this kid is good. He's good. So there's a lot of talent in the Seychelles, and also every time you look up at what the national team call-ups, whether it's U16, whether it's U17, whether it's U19, there's always a very healthy number of Benfica players, and oftentimes they're the majority over or they have more players in there than Sporting and Porto. They're not the majority of players, but they have the biggest number. So anyway, the future is bright, and big shout out to CJ, as Cristiano mentioned, that is working hard, and we're very proud that CJ was actually a part of this podcast a few months back before he made the trip to Lisbon. So we wish him all the luck. We're big fans, and I'm sure he knows that he has at least 3 guys here pulling for him to do good in Portugal and at the Seychelles. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. Next week, we will come back. We'll look back at the Setubal and CSKA game. The Porto game, I think, comes up very quickly, right?
You play CSKA, Vitoria de Setubal, then Porto.
That's right.
Yeah,
So we have
December.
we also have that to preview, a big preview, and with everything that's going on outside the 4 lines, and you won't find us here talking about that. And I just want to go on record that Benfica is doing absolute wrong thing by giving attention to these things to these wars that are being created. We have no need to divulge names of guys that everyone knows is involved. That's for the other clubs.
What used to set Benfica apart was the fact we're classy. We
That's
didn't
right.
get ourselves involved in none of these, off the field games that our 2 main rivals, we're accustomed to seeing them getting involved in. And now it seems like we fall into the trap of, rather than talking about ourselves, we're sitting there talking about others and pointing the finger, and it's just it's getting ugly. And Benfica, if you're listening, bro, or bro, Benfica, if you're listening, I'll tell you,
keep it classy.
This is not just coming from us, man. I'm getting a lot of complaints. A lot of people are texting me. A lot of people are tweeting at me what's going on at Benfica TV. So if you're listening to us, man, put a wrap on that. We don't need that. That's not Benfica.
That's not who we are. So we'll be damned if we're gonna feed more of that, of what's going on. We like to keep things inside.
And that's not to say, guys, if in the end of all this, Benfica is at fault for something, and they've, and the authorities go through their investigation, and Benfica's liable for whatever the hell they've been doing. If these accusations are correct, look, I'll be the first one to rip them. But until then, we're just choosing not to talk about it until we get some clarity on exactly what has happened or transpired over the last couple of months. Once the decision comes out, we'll talk about it. And if it's negative, trust me, you'll get my thoughts.
Let the law take care of it. The biggest concern is that within the law, there's guys that have certain affinities for certain clubs, and we would the knowledge or the understanding is that clubs are going to get breaks as a result of these guys being in power, cutting them breaks. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it sure is a situation that's being created, and all the talk that's going back and forth is creating an absolute bad atmosphere for outside of the 4 lines, for the guys that are going to travel up north for this game. We don't need this type of stuff in football, in Portuguese football,
bro.
in general.
In a season where the 3 big teams are all right there within reach of each other, right? But the Portuguese media, I should say, is talking more about off the field stuff rather than on the field stuff. When you have Porto, who's, I believe, and again, we need a statistician, I believe is off to their best start in like team history or
Not
something
for that.
like that.
We don't need a statistician.
No,
for
I
that.
know, but still, the fact is that, we need to get these things right. So I think they're off to the best start ever. Benfica, shaky, but they're right there within reach. Same thing with Sporting. You have so many positives to talk about on the field, and yet every single day, every cover, every single story, every single TV show is just documenting and talking about garbage.
That's right.
Let's keep it on the field, guys. I mean, Benfica TV, you're better than that. Keep it on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't agree with it. Let's get that fixed quick. We don't need to be the queixinhas that everybody else is. We're much classier than that. Keep it classy, Benfica TV. Anyway, planetbenfica.co.uk is our friends over at in the UK. They run a great site, benficapodcast.com, at 10CO10, at Steve Santos 6, at Benfica Podcast is where you can find us on Twitter. And I'm dead serious. We're looking for somebody that could do stats for us. All right. You can inbox us, or you could email benficapodcast@gmail.com and let us know if you're interested and what you could bring to the table.
Statistician, digital media, whatever. Call me up.
Yeah.
DM me.
We need somebody, and I think that is going to strengthen the show if we were able to have somebody that's fact checking.
If Neil's available, he'd be the perfect guy to do
I don't know about Neil. Neil had a chance to do it, and he didn't do all
Neil's
that great.
Big time. Neil's a free agent. He freelances. He goes on every other podcast. He's big time now. You know what I mean? So
and the thing is that we probably have you for a trial period, and if it works out, you get a contract extension.
You get a whole. You get your own Benfica podcast T-shirt. Speaking the truth.
Anyway, thanks everybody. Talk to you later, Steve.
Ciao.
Later. See you, everybody.